Welcome to today's episode. In the previous two episodes of this series on dealing with primitive bread, I talked about the fact that there are many wild edibles which can be used as flour extenders, which can be turned into primitive bread if combined with a binder. Now, I discovered that cattail root can be used as a binder because of its high starch content, and I demonstrated how to extract the starch from the roots to make a thick white goop, which I will now be mixing with a few flour extenders that I've obtained from the wild. In this bowl, I'm pouring some seeds that I've collected from several common wild grasses. Instead of grinding them into a powder, I'm using the seeds as is. If you want to see how I collected these wild grass seeds, click on the link that will be appearing now. I've poured my cattail binder in with the seeds, and I'm mixing them together to form a flatbread shape. In the next bowl is the goldenrod flour that I talked about in episode 1. In goes the cattail binder, and I'll mix it together just like I did with the seeds before. So far, I haven't liked the taste of goldenrod, but I wonder if I'll like it as a bread. In the third bowl, I've added the oat flour that I made. Again, I mix it with the cattail binder. Now, according to my research, oat flour is gluten-free, and so the cattail gloop will be the binder for it, since it lacks the gluten anyway. So in total, I have 4 experimental breads placed on the cookie sheet. First is the goldenrod flatbread. Second is the grass seed flatbread. Next is the oat flour, the oat flour roll, which I was able to roll into a bun shape. And finally, this is my control group, where I've left the cattail binder on its own, just to see how it turns out. In an episode I did on peppermint, I dried some mint leaves and saved them in a jar. I figured that it wouldn't hurt to give my 4 primitive breads a flavor boost, and so I ground the mint leaves up and I garnished my primitive breads with the mint powder. Next, I placed the breads in the oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, or until they begin to brown up. First, I take a look at the cattail binder that I've left on its own. It doesn't come off the sheet too easy, and so I end up scraping it off. The cattail binder comes off in flakes. Here it's easy to see that the cattail binder is meant to be used in conjunction with a flour extender for it to work properly. Anyway, the oat bun held together the best, and it also tasted quite decent. Now keep in mind that I purposefully made these breads in a way that can be replicated easily enough in the wild. And so I refrain from using salt, sugar, extracts, etc., because those are things that can't be easily found in the wild. So my point is that all of my breads will probably lean more towards the bland side of the flavor spectrum. Now that being said, I could easily live off this type of oat bread if I had to. And the subtlety of the mint helps the flavor for sure. If I were making primitive bread in the wild, I definitely would look for something with a bit of sugar in it, like some type of berry, wild apple, or any kind of edible fruit in general that I could throw into the dough mixture to help liven the bread up a bit. But mint is what I had on hand, and so I used it. Next, I tried the flaky pieces of cattail binder. I actually didn't mind the flavor of these either. They tasted kind of what I imagine a flaky, saltless soda cracker would taste like. The grass seed flatbread was decent too. The seeds definitely added their own accent to the flavor, and in general, the whole thing held together quite well. Finally, I had the goldenrod flatbread. So far, I haven't liked goldenrod, but tasting the goldenrod bread made me hate it even more. It didn't hold together very well at all. The texture was fuzzy in my mouth, and it tasted so terrible that I had to spit it out. Overall, 2 of the breads were tied for my favorite, and those are the oat bun and the grass seed flatbread. In second place is the cattail binder, and finally, in the garbage, is the goldenrod flatbread in last place. Have I mentioned how much I hate goldenrod? Now, I let my dad try all 4 breads as well, and his favorite was the oat bun, followed closely by the grass seed flatbread. And I didn't mind the cattail binder, and he too had to spit out the goldenrod flatbread because, it was just so terrible. And so there you have it. Flatbread in the wild is easier than you think.